What if, what if like 90% of the things you stressed over this week are guaranteed to be entirely forgotten? And I mean, not just by history, but by the universe itself.
It's a terrifying thought, honestly. It really is. Blessings, friends, and family. I am Michelle.
And I'm Keith, and today we are discussing the topic, do what will last. Think about it. You, the listener, you probably have a calendar right now that looks like some kind of high-stakes game of Tetris.
Yeah, completely blocked out.
Right, you're busy. We are all so busy.
Yeah, but if you stop and really look at the sheer volume of output you're generating, the emails, the meetings, the errands, there's this quiet nagging dread that most of us just suppress.
Absolutely, because we're building this massive resume for a world that won't even exist in a century.
Yeah, it really is the defining exhaustion of our era. Like, we are highly productive, but we are deeply existentially tired. We've, optimized our daily schedules down to the minute, yet we often feel completely empty when the laptop finally closes at night.
We're relentlessly building, but we're terrified to look down and inspect what the foundation is actually made of.
Okay, let's unpack this, because that specific dread is basically the engine behind today's discussion. We are exploring this brief but incredibly dense document written by Tyrone K. Sullivan. It's titled, Do What Will Last.
That's quite a title.
Right? And it operates as this distillation of a biblical philosophy regarding our time, our energy, and our legacy. The entire mission of this text is to explore the friction between temporary worldly efforts, the stuff that just wears you down, and eternal investments.
Right. Actions that the text argues carry actual literal value into whatever comes next.
And what makes this document so compelling to me is that it completely bypasses abstract, high-in-the-sky theology. It really brings it down to earth.
It does. It takes these massive existential questions about eternity and just drags them right into your kitchen, into your bank account, into your daily planner.
Right. It uses these 6 specific biblical scriptures to construct a very rigid framework for how you should operate in the physical present while optimizing for the eternal future. It forces a hard audit of where your energy goes.
I mean, the source material starts by tackling that exact exhaustion we just talked about. It warns against dedicating your life to things that, quote, just wear you down but add no value to your future.
Yeah, and to illustrate this, it goes straight to the Gospel of Luke, chapter 10, the story of Mary and Martha.
Right, and most people listening probably know the basic setup of this narrative. Like, Jesus is visiting their home, and Martha is the one who's just running around, entirely consumed by the cultural expectation of hosting.
Stressing out.
Totally stressing out. She's preparing the meal, managing all the logistics, basically making sure the physical environment is flawless.
Yeah, but Mary, on the other hand, she just sits at his feet listening to the teaching. And Martha complains, right? She's upset. And Jesus essentially tells her that she's anxious and troubled about many things. But Mary has chosen the one thing that actually matters, the thing that won't be taken away.
Which is, usually when people talk about this story, they frame it as a lesson in mindfulness, like, put down your phone and be present in the moment.
Right, the typical modern takeaway.
Yeah, but this document takes a much sharper angle.
Yeah, it pairs this story with a principle from the Apostle Paul in 2 Corinthians, chapter 4, verse 18, which says, we should fix our eyes on the unseen, because what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal.
Yes, so it's arguing that Martha isn't just, distracted. She's investing all her capital into a depreciating asset. I mean, the food is going to be eaten, the dishes will just get dirty again.
Exactly. It's a closed, decaying loop. It's like she's running on a treadmill of tasks. You're moving incredibly fast, sweating, exhausted, but eternally speaking, you're getting absolutely nowhere.
That is the crucial psychological insight here. The text is arguing that the physical world, by its very nature, is a decaying system. And Martha's internal state, she's literally described as distracted, anxious, and troubled. That is the inevitable psychological result of attaching your ultimate meaning to things that are actively falling apart.
Wow, right, because if your primary focus is entirely on the temporary logistics of life, you will constantly feel like you're losing ground because, Well, you are.
You're fighting entropy.
Yes, and entropy always wins.
I have to admit, reading this, it really hit a nerve for me.
Oh, same.
Like, I completely lost my mind last week when my Wi-Fi router went down 10 minutes before a crucial Zoom call.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I was sweating, my heart rate was through the roof, I was literally snapping at my dog.
The worst feeling.
It was terrible. My entire emotional state was hijacked by a plastic box blinking red. But stepping back for a second, I do have to push back on this philosophy on behalf of, anyone living in reality.
Okay, let's hear it.
Well, the Wi-Fi does actually need to work, and the dishes, respectfully, they still need to get washed. If we completely detach from the seen world just because it's temporary, people starve, bills go unpaid, society kind of collapses.
Yeah, that's a very fair point. So how is this not just an endorsement of negligent escapism, like just sitting around all day?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the biblical philosophy here isn't advocating for negligence at all.
Okay.
Like Jesus didn't tell Martha that cooking dinner was a sin. The critique was entirely focused on her internal architecture. She wasn't just performing a necessary task. She was, as the text says, worried and upset about many things. The task had essentially become her tyrant.
So wait, the physical task itself isn't the problem. The psychological idolatry of the task is the problem.
Precisely. It's all about the mechanism of priority. Like, are you doing the dishes as an act of service to your family because that is an unseen, eternal relational good?
Right. Or are you doing the dishes and stressing over the absolute perfection of the meal because you need the social validation of being seen as the perfect host?
Oh, wow. The physical action is identical. You're washing a plate, but the underlying code, the motivation, that determines whether it's just a temporary decaying effort or an actual eternal investment.
That makes a lot of sense. And if we're talking about the unavoidable physical realities of life, we inevitably have to talk about how this philosophy handles money.
Oh yes, the money question. Here's where it gets really interesting, because the source document places two concepts side by side that to a modern listener feel like a massive, totally irreconcilable paradox. It explicitly lists building financial future right next to doing what gets rewarded in heaven.
It really is the ultimate tension point for anyone trying to navigate this framework. Like, how do you participate in a capitalist economy without losing your soul?
Right, because the document cites two scriptures that honestly seem to be at war with each other. First, it pulls from 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 8, which is incredibly blunt.
Very blunt. It says that anyone who does not provide for their relatives, and especially their own household, has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever.
That is a heavy, unapologetic mandate to secure the bag. You have to build a financial future. You need life insurance, a 401k, a college fund.
Yes, and this raises an important question, though. When you flip the page and the document introduces Jesus's famous command from Matthew 6.
Right, the treasure one.
Exactly. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy and where thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven.
That's exactly the paradox.
Yeah, think of earthly wealth, so fiat currency, real estate, stock portfolios. Think of all that as a highly volatile, highly temporary currency.
Okay.
You literally can't take it with you across the border of eternity. It's completely worthless on the other side. However, the text argues, you can use that temporary currency now to purchase eternal assets.
Oh, I like that framing. How does that conversion actually work in practice?
Let's look at that 1 Timothy mandate to provide for your family. Providing shelter, securing an education, ensuring your dependents don't suffer poverty. That is fundamentally an act of stewardship and love in the biblical framework is an indestructible, eternal asset.
So, by using physical resources to care for human beings who have eternal souls, you're taking temporary cash and converting it into eternal impact. You're funding human flourishing.
Exactly. You're funding human flourishing. But wait, where's the line? Because couldn't someone argue that buying a massive 10-bedroom mansion and a fleet of luxury cars is just, providing for their family?
Oh, definitely. People do argue that. It feels like you could use that logic to justify total hoarding.
And that is exactly where the Matthew 6 warning acts as the guardrail.
Okay.
The storing up treasures on Earth addresses the psychological motive of accumulation, like accumulating for the sake of status, ego, isolation, or greed. It's when the wealth stops being a tool for stewardship and becomes a monument to yourself.
Oh, I see, right. If your bank account is simply a high score in the game of life designed to make you feel superior to your neighbors, that is a temporary monument. Inflation will eat the cash, the market will crash, the cars will rust.
Yeah, and eventually, you will die and leave every single cent to people who will probably just fight over it.
So if wealth is a tool used to build someone else up, it crosses the border into eternity. But if wealth is a trophy you polish just to make yourself feel secure, it stays on Earth and rots.
Yes, it's the difference between building a hospital and building a pyramid.
Wow. Both require immense resources, right? But one serves the living and the other just houses a corpse.
That is a brutal but super clear distinction. Okay, so if this currency conversion is happening constantly, if every email we send, every dollar we spend, every interaction we have is either decaying or converting into eternal value, who is doing the auditing? How is this ultimate portfolio actually evaluated?
This moves the text from the theory of what we are building to the terrifying mechanics of the inspection.
The inspection.
Yeah, the document pulls heavily from the Apostle Paul in 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verses 11 through 15. Paul uses this architectural metaphor, stating that everyone is building their life on a foundation, right? You can build using gold, silver, and costly stones, or you can build using wood, hay, and straw.
Which are vastly different materials when you consider what happens next in the text.
Yes, exactly, because Paul says that the fire will test the quality of each person's work. If what has been built survives the fire, the builder receives a reward. But if it gets burned up, the builder suffers loss, even though they themselves will be saved.
The fire test. The imagery here totally reminds me of a stress test in structural engineering or like software development.
Oh yeah, that's a great analogy.
Right? When developers write code, they run it through a simulated overload. They hit it with millions of fake users all at once just to see what breaks.
Yeah, and everything that isn't structurally sound, every shortcut, every piece of bloatware, it just crashes. Only the pure load-bearing code survives a test. This text is arguing that eternity functions like a massive cosmic stress test for the human life.
What's fascinating here is how the source document applies this to human recognition. There's this profound quote in the notes that synthesizes this whole idea. It says, "If nobody says anything about what you have done after you die, then you never get recognized for it. But God sees all of your doings."
I read that line 3 times. Wow, because it is deeply, deeply countercultural.
Very. We live in an era entirely built on the wood, hay, and straw of public relations. I mean, we have personal brands. We curate our LinkedIn profiles to make sure every minor accomplishment is publicly documented.
Oh, totally. We want our names on buildings. We're terrified of being invisible, of doing hard work that nobody notices. It's like we're building beautiful sandcastles right before high tide instead of just quietly laying bricks for a foundation.
Right. The anxiety of the modern ego is that if a tree falls in a forest and it isn't posted on social media, did it even make a sound?
Exactly. We expend an incalculable amount of energy trying to ensure other people see our virtues. And this document argues that the human applause is exactly the kind of material that burns up in the fire test.
Right. But while that idea initially challenges our ego, if you really sit with it, it actually offers immense psychological relief.
Really? How so?
Well, it completely liberates you from the burden of PR.
Oh, because if the biblical framework is true, you already have an audience of one.
Exactly. You don't have to be your own publicist anymore. The silent observation of God means that the absolute most mundane, invisible acts of goodness are perfectly secure. Like the quiet patience you showed your toddler when you're running on 3 hours of sleep, the anonymous donation to a friend in debt, the decision to just not gossip when you had the perfect opportunity.
Yeah, those are gold and silver. The world will never write a biography about those moments. Humanity will completely forget them. But they survived the fire test because they were recorded by the only auditor that matters.
That completely flips the script on how we value our time. It means the unseen moments of integrity are structurally stronger than our most public achievements.
It removes the anxiety of legacy. You don't have to build a monument to yourself.
Okay, but this leads me to a major tension point.
Okay.
If I'm relieved of the burden of PR, and if God is the only audience and the physical world is just temporary anyway, why not just retreat?
Retreat?
Yeah, if I know my work is going to be tested by fire, the safest bet is to do as little as possible, stay quiet, avoid the messy physical world, don't take any risks, and just focus on keeping my own soul clean in a bunker somewhere. It's the logical extreme of risk aversion.
I get that, but the final scripture in our source document aggressively dismantles that strategy.
Oh, it does.
It brings in Matthew 25, the parable of the talents, and it uses it to prove that this philosophy of doing what will last is not passive at all.
So, what does this all mean in the context of that parable? I mean, we know the basic beats. A master leaves, gives 3 servants different amounts of money, or talents. 2 of them invested, double it, and get praised. The 3rd servant buries his single talent in the dirt.
But we often skip past the psychology of that 3rd servant. Like, why did he bury it?
Well, the 3rd servant's failure wasn't driven by malice or greed or some desire to sabotage the master. It was driven entirely by fear-induced paralysis. He literally tells the master, "I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground."
He knew the master was exacting, he knew there was an audit coming, and he calculated that the safest way to survive the audit was to preserve the original asset without risking a single thing. He treated the master's wealth like a museum exhibit instead of investment capital.
Like, here is exactly what you gave me, perfectly preserved, safe from the messy reality of the marketplace. And the master's response is notoriously harsh. He doesn't praise him for his careful preservation. He calls him wicked and lazy, takes the talent away, and condemns him.
It's a devastating critique of playing it safe.
Yes, if we connect this to the bigger picture we've been building, the text is revealing that eternal investment is inherently aggressive.
Aggressive?
Yeah, the master expects a return on investment. The life, the time, the intellect, the resources, the relationships you have been given, those are your talents. You aren't meant to bury them in the dirt of self-preservation.
Doing what will last requires the active, courageous stewardship of those gifts in a broken world. You are expected to take risks for the sake of love, for the sake of justice, for the sake of human flourishing.
So the 3rd servant failed not because he did something actively evil, but because his fear paralyzed him into doing absolutely nothing of value.
Which really brings us full circle.
Yeah, because we started this deep dive talking about Martha and the exhaustion of doing too much of the wrong temporary things. But the parable of the talents warns us against the opposite extreme, the exhaustion of rust out, the exhaustion of doing nothing out of fear.
That is the genius of the framework within this document. It pulls you off the treadmill of temporary, ego-driven burnout, but it doesn't let you just collapse on the couch.
Right, it immediately drafts you into the courageous, active work of eternal multiplication. It demands that you engage with the physical world, but with an entirely different set of operating instructions.
It changes everything about how you view a standard Tuesday morning. You aren't just answering emails or washing dishes, you're either converting temporary capital into eternal value or you're hoarding straw.
It's a profound shift.
It really is. Well, we've traced the entire arc of this document today. We diagnosed the burnout trap of investing entirely in the seen world. We explored the paradox of building financial security without building earthly monuments to our own ego. We faced the reality of the fire test and found relief in the audience of one. And finally, we learned that eternal focus demands active, risky multiplication of our gifts, not fearful preservation. The document leaves us with a stark reality check.
And to that end, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought experiment to mull over as you return to your busy schedule.
Let's hear it.
Imagine the fire described in 1 Corinthians swept through your actual physical life right now. Imagine it swept through your calendar from this past week, your bank statements from the last month, and your browser history.
Oh, wow.
Based on the mechanics of temporary rust versus eternal value we've discussed today, what vast majorities of your week would instantly burn away as temporary ashes? And what few, quiet, precious things would actually emerge on the other side as pure, indestructible gold?
That is a brutal audit, but a necessary one. it completely changes how you schedule your tomorrow. Thank you for taking this time with us to explore the architecture of an enduring life. Keep evaluating your foundation, keep asking the hard questions, and keep seeking out the things that truly last.
Amen. Thank you for joining us today. We love you, God bless you, and have a beautiful and blessed day in the Lord.